Nobody in the NFL fell as far as the Kansas City Chiefs did in 2025, and almost nobody is being talked about as a bigger threat to bounce back in 2026. That sentence alone should stop you in your tracks. A team goes from 15 wins and a third straight Super Bowl trip to 6 wins and a missed playoff bracket in the span of a single calendar year. And now respected league voices are pointing right back at them as one of the franchises most likely to flip the script again. If that sounds contradictory, stay with me, because the explanation behind it is one of the strangest statistical stories in recent football history. And by the end of this, you will understand exactly why so many analysts think the Chiefs' collapse was far less about talent than it was about pure, brutal luck. Patrick Mahomes is still the centerpiece of this story, and how healthy and sharp he looks in 2026 will decide whether this turnaround talk becomes reality or just another offseason storyline that fades by October. Let's get into it. Kansas City's 2024 season was about as dominant as a 15-win team can be without blowing teams off the field. They finished with a positive point differential near 60, went 15-2, and marched to their third consecutive Super Bowl appearance. That's historic continuity most franchises never sniff in a decade, let alone 3 years running. Then 2025 happened, and the wheels seemed to come off almost overnight. 6 wins, 11 losses. Eliminated from the postseason for the first time in over a decade. On the surface, it looks like a franchise in freefall, the kind of collapse that gets you labeled as a team that's aged out of its championship window. But dig one level deeper into the numbers, and a very different picture starts to form. ESPN analyst Bill Barnwell has been one of the loudest voices pushing back on the doom narrative, and he zeroed in on something that a lot of casual fans completely overlooked while the Chiefs were losing game after game late in the year. It wasn't that Kansas City was getting demolished on the scoreboard. It was that they kept losing games that were basically coin flips over and over, in a pattern so extreme that it's never been seen before in league history. In 2024, the Chiefs were a perfect 10-0 in games decided by 7 points or fewer. Every close game, every nail-biter, every fourth-quarter dogfight, Kansas City found a way to win it. That's not luck sustained over a full season. That's usually a sign of a team that executes in big moments better than anyone else in the league, and it's part of why they were considered nearly unbeatable when a game came down to the final possession. Then 2025 arrived, and that same team, with largely the same roster, went 1-9 in those identical situations. Think about that swing for a second. 10-0 flips to 1-9. That's an 18-win difference in close game outcomes from one season to the next, and according to Barnwell's research, that is the single biggest year-over-year swing in close game record that the NFL has ever recorded. Not close to a record. The record. When you lose almost every one-score game you play, your win total craters even if the underlying performance barely changes, and that's exactly what the deeper numbers suggest happened here. Before things fell apart, Kansas City was actually playing quality football. Even accounting for the disaster of a final record, the Chiefs outscored their opponents by roughly 60 points across the 2025 season, essentially matching the point differential they posted during their 15-win campaign the year before. Their efficiency numbers back this up too. By DVOA, the advanced metric that strips out garbage time and adjusts for opponent strength, Kansas City ranked 8th in the league, the exact same ranking they held at the end of their historic 2024 season. Read that again. Same efficiency ranking, same point differential in the same neighborhood, but a 9-win swing in the standings. That's not what a declining, washed-up roster looks like. That's what a team that got hammered by random variance in close games looks like. And then, on top of all of that bad luck, the roster took its most devastating hit of the year. In Week 15, with the Chiefs already eliminated from postseason contention, disaster struck. Patrick Mahomes went down against the Los Angeles Chargers with a torn ACL and LCL in his left knee, ending his season and instantly turning the conversation away from wins and losses and toward his recovery timeline for 2026. It was a brutal way to close out an already brutal year, and it robbed Kansas City of any chance to salvage something meaningful down the stretch. But here's the part that makes this story even more interesting when you look at Mahomes specifically. Coming into 2025, he had built a career record of 43 wins against just 17 losses in one-score games, a winning percentage that ranks among the best any starting quarterback has ever posted in high-pressure, closely contested football. That number wasn't a fluke either. It's the product of years of Mahomes doing what he does best, extending plays, making something out of nothing, and finding a way to close games out when it matters most. Yet in 2025, before the injury ended his season, Mahomes and the Chiefs went just 1-7 in one-score games with him under center. 1 win, 7 losses. In games where his career track record says he should be winning nearly 2/3 of the time. That is about as extreme a departure from the norm as you'll find anywhere in modern NFL history. And it's the statistical heart of why so many people believe 2025 was an aberration rather than the start of a genuine decline. So what does all of this actually mean heading into 2026? According to Barnwell's own math, the fix might be simpler than anyone expects. He points out that if Kansas City had merely played .500 football in those close games instead of losing almost all of them, they would have been right back in the playoff picture. Just breaking even, not dominating, not returning to their old 10-0 form. Just an average, coin flip level of performance in close games would have been enough to get this team back into the postseason conversation. And if Mahomes and the Chiefs managed to return to anywhere near his career rate in those situations, something in the neighborhood of winning close games about 65% of the time, the math suggests Kansas City could push all the way back to the top of a suddenly loaded AFC West. That's a staggering thought when you consider where this division currently stands. Denver and the Chargers both took real steps forward, and the AFC West is no longer a conversation that starts and ends with Kansas City by default. A return to true contention would mean not just climbing back into the wildcard hunt, but potentially reclaiming a division that got significantly more competitive while the Chiefs were busy losing close games and nursing a season-ending knee injury.